we could be alone between city lights. We don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, you guys? I'm Joshua Bardwell. It's Monday night. Y'all gonna learn something today? Y'all gonna learn? How you guys doing tonight? It's 8 p.m. It's Monday evening. It's time for some Q&A, and I am ready. I'm ready, but I have to confess, I'm not as energetic as I am many other nights because last night, if you heard, no, you weren't. It wasn't during the live stream. We had a thunderstorm last night. Power went out at like 1 a.m. and I was up in the middle of the night trying to deal with the power outage. So, oh well, you're right. So for those of you who are in Europe right now and it's like 3 a.m., you know, okay, you got me. You got me. It's later. So, yeah, but we're gonna do our best. We're here. What's up, guys? We're gonna do some questions, some answers. You're gonna ask them. I'm gonna answer them. Here we are. This is what I got in front of me. 1 a.m. Aphex FPV, Caristo FPV, 2 a.m., 10 p.m. here in Brazil. Enzo, wait a minute. How is it 10 p.m. in Brazil? You're east of me. Okay, no big deal. You don't need power sleeping, says Quad's cool. Yeah, that's true, but I like to sleep with a fan. I like a little white noise. So when the fan goes out, I wake up. That's how it is. Here's what I got in front of me. Here's you guys in the pleb chat. These are the plebs right here. Your comments, this is just the regular YouTube chat. Anyone can join. Anyone can answer a question, and I do my best to answer as many of the questions as I can. Like this one here from Drone Pilot. Can a FrSky voltage sensor be connected to an F port? I don't know. You would need no, Drone Pilot. I don't think so, because the FrSky voltage sensors are just like, they're voltage dividers. you would need an analog input to use a voltage sensor. If it's a smart port voltage sensor, that's an interesting question. I don't know about that. Okay, well, that wasn't the best answer in the world, but that's what we do here. Now, if you want to make sure that your question gets noticed, hit the $sign. Not on my screen, there's no $sign, but there's one down in yours. Hit that $sign or whatever your local currency is. Throw a couple bucks at me, and it'll pull it out in a super chat. No super chats yet, though. And then over here on the left, these lucky people over here are my patrons. And they are in my Discord server. And I'll be keeping an eye out for them as well. Kosiba, I saw the first Diatone Taycan review. Did you get a model as well? Yep, I sure did. In fact, it's right over there in my closet. I'm going to be doing a cineWhoop roundup. The Diatone Taycan. Let's just get them all up here. The Diatone Taycan is Diatone. What is a Taycan, by the way? Is that a thing that I don't like? Is it any? Oh, okay. It's a Porsche. All right. All right. Did they name it after a Porsche? Okay, fair enough. So yeah, I got the Diatone Taycan. I got the iFlight Bumble. Can I not type Bumblebee? I got the iFlight Bumblebee is in the mail. This drone changes filming forever. Really? No, how about that? That's not even Stu. I thought for sure that was Stu. UAV Futures. Nope, it was Drone Camps RC. Okay. I've got the... Oh, that's just the frame. Holy Bro cineWhoop. I got the Holy Bro. What'd they call it? The Copus cineWhoop. Okay, they're just sticking with Copus for their names. And I have the Rotor Riot Squirt. The Shendrone Squirt from the Rotor Riot store. That's Andy Shin's frame. So I'm going to be doing this is just the frame, but I'm going to be doing a roundup with all of these guys in here. Looking forward to testing them out, and I'll be interested to hear what you guys think about some of these. DJ Pop wants to know what I think about the Ethics Cinerat. I'm not going to read the rest of your comment, DJ Pop, because I try to stay polite and respectful. The Ethics Cinerat. So this one's it's not really a cineWhoop. It's not trying to be. Their perspective seems to be that guys like Andy Shin who think that cineWhoops should have ducts they're wrong. So they've got prop guards. It's basically a 3-inch with prop guards. It reminds me a lot of the Acrobrat. I don't know what the deal is here. It's got this little, you can put your GoPro on here with a standard mount. That's kind of cool. $35, hard to go wrong. I don't know. All right. So, yeah. So that's it. Yeah, in the last live stream on Sunday, I ranted a lot about the remote ID. I'm working on a video talking about remote ID, and I would love to do an interview with Dave Messina. We're trying to find scheduling to get together and talk about that. But for now, I'm going to put Nicholas Laredo in timeout for spamming the chat. Boop. Bye, Nicholas. Don't spam the chat, my friend. Finn wants to know, why is the RSSI on my Jumper T16 showing up only as -60 FlySky X8B receiver? Finn, it would depend on how close you are. I mean, -60 could be reasonable for some medium distances. Bear in mind that RSSI drops off very quickly at first and then levels off. So it's normal to see RSSI around like 85 or 90 when you're right up close to the quad. But then as soon as you get even a little distance away, it drops into maybe the 70s or the low 80s. And then as you get further away, I would want to know the full distance that you're getting, like before you start to fail safe. Drone Camps RC, I see you there, man. Did it change everything, though? I know the game. All I know is that Drone Camps, I saw that the thumbnail said, "This changes everything!" And I thought, wow, there's Stu. And then it wasn't Stu, and I was like, oh, hey. Thank you for being here, Drone Camps. FPV Freedom Coalition is in the chat talking about remote ID. I don't want to spend the whole stream talking about remote ID. Remote ID. How do you know if a PDB has gone bad? Asks Black Pirate FPV. Black Pirate, if there's continuity between ground and positive, obviously that's bad. The regulators on a PDB could go out, so if they're not putting out the required voltage, that could be bad. The drink tonight this is like a black cherry Mio Squirt. Mio, sponsor my streams. This is like a black cherry Mio Squirt. Just a Mio Squirt tonight. No adult enhancements. JC Energy is desperate. I cannot get my Tiny Hawk 2 to connect to Betaflight in Windows 10. I've done everything. JC Energy, if this is the first quadcopter you've ever installed, make sure you've installed the STM32 virtual COM port drivers. If you have other flight controllers that are working, then that's not the issue. They all use the same drivers. The other thing to do is to test the USB cable. Try a different USB cable. So install the drivers and try a different USB cable. If you plug in USB and you don't see the lights go on the flight controller, that's not a good sign. It means it's not getting power. The COM port drivers won't install. Are you sure you're downloading like the right OS, the Windows 8 driver, the Windows... Yeah, there's no Windows 10 driver, but the Windows 8 driver should work, JC Energy. If they still won't install, like, you've got a virus scanner or something that's blocking you out or something? Which transmitter and video transmitter do you recommend for the 2-kilometer range? Asks Drone Racing. Drone Racing, I've done 2 kilometers on FreeSky before. Granted, it was in the desert, so there was like literally nothing to block the signal. But, you know, a 500 milliwatt video transmitter like the Rush Tank and a FreeSky RXSR should go 2 kilometers. You'll be at the edge of range, but you can do it. If you want to go with Crossfire, 2 kilometers is just a piece of cake. Lancer is wanting to know in the Discord. Well, since you're a patron, I'll answer a question, even though it's about remote ID, which I don't want to get in. I don't want to like spend all live stream ranting about it. Lancer wants to know how remote ID is going to work. Is it another piece of hardware we're going to have to install? I'm very confused about this requirement. Yeah, Lancer. So here's obviously this is all proposed. None of us know exactly how it's going to shake out. But from my reading of the remote ID, the proposed legislation, there has to be a piece of hardware on the quad that, if you're going to do the full remote ID, that broadcasts identifying information similar to, like, I think there's a thing called full-scale aircraft use called ADS-B. It has to broadcast, and it has to connect to the internet, like through cellular, like back through your control link to your transmit. Like, I imagine a scenario where the flight controller transmits GPS data back to the Tyrannus. The Tyrannus gets the GPS coordinates and uses Bluetooth to send it to your cell phone, and your cell phone transmits the data back over the internet. That's a way it could work. But here's the problem. The FAA doesn't want to trust you and to make the hardware and software that makes this happen, because you could just make it lie. So to do remote ID under the current proposed rules, all the hardware would have to be from like an approved manufacturer, which means not like just an open source Betaflight firmware. So as far as I can tell, the most likely scenario for like full remote ID, it has to be a flight controller with integrated GPS, with lockdown firmware, and then the ability to broadcast and communicate over the internet. LexRex wants to know, what's the safest way to bend back a motor shaft? LexRex, unless you are a really skilled machinist, you are probably never going to get it back into true. It spins at 30,000 RPM. It's just not, it's done. But dude, just get a new bell. If you are the kind of machinist, the thing is, if you were a good enough machinist to be able to get that shaft back to true, you wouldn't have to ask me how to do it. So the fact that you have to ask me how to do it means you're not going to do it. I mean, give it a try. I guess it costs you nothing, but it's unlikely that you're going to pull it off. Yeah. Let's see here. Roarstar McTavish says, I've broken 2 balance plugs on new batteries. Can I charge just using the XT60? Roarstar, most chargers will let you charge without balance, but it's unsafe to do it, especially for high discharge batteries like ours. For a low discharge battery, like a goggle battery or a transmitter battery, they're not going to go that far out of balance most of the time. But you should balance charge every time. So if all you did was crack the housing, you can buy spare balance plug housings and just pop the wires in. If you actually cut the wires, then I would solder. I wouldn't use a battery with a non-functioning balance plug. I wouldn't charge it, period. Not a big battery. Let's see here. Shift FPV wants to know, how do you figure out the processor speed, like F7, F4 of the flight controller, if it's from a no-name brand? 2 things I would do, Shift FPV. You can just look at the chip, and the chip should have its part number etched on it, right? And it'll say STM32F411XXXXX. You can also look in the command line and type version, and it'll tell you the targets that's used, and that'll probably tell you what the processor is. But just look at the processor. What do I think about Kebab's Toothpick 3? Well, I haven't flown it, but I think it's probably awesome because Kebab's awesome and all of his toothpicks are awesome. Piet Kleinifen. My Tiny Hawk just spins when I shake it upside down. I have no idea what that sentence could possibly mean. I don't know. So I know what a Tiny Hawk is, so I got one thing. It just spins when I shake it upside down. Why are you shaking it upside down? Ion FPV wants to know if I'm still using both the Orcas and the HDO2s. Yep. In fact, just today I did some flying with the Orcas. Of course, I fly with the HDO2s. I have to say, I tested out the Orcas today, and I went to update the firmware on the Orcas because I had heard there were some firmware updates that added some features, and I could not, for the frickin' life of me, find the damn firmware to upgrade the Orcas. I know, now the chat is going to be like, duh, it's right here. How could you not find it? I was like, Orca. See, look, there it is in my autocomplete. Orca FPV1 firmware. Okay. I looked in these video descriptions, didn't find it there. Here's the Orca website, Orca FPV1 firmware. Oh, okay, cool. Version 111 is not the latest version, by the way, but okay, let's download it. Oh, my bad. All right. Okay. Oh, here we go on the Orca subreddit. Firmware 112 is out, Christmas edition. Okay, cool. Let me just get that. No. So I tested I used the Orcas today, but I did not use them on the latest firmware because I couldn't frickin' find it. Orca, what's going on here, dude? What's going on? And by the way, let me just bitch here for a minute. No. Orca FPV1. Okay, so here is Orca's website. Ready? Where is it? Where's our website? OrcaFPV.com. Okay. This is the most design-heavy website. And by that, I mean it's not freaking usable. Okay, where do I click if I want to find the firmware to update the firmware on my goggles? Where do I click? Is it here? No. What do I do? What do I do? Oh, let's scroll down. Oh, that's hot. Where do I click? Where's the contact page? Where's the privacy policy? Where's the... All I get is... Oh, hang on. Oh, no. No. Oh, I can subscribe. Oh, I could become a reseller. I could become a press kit. After scrolling down through this animation, somebody put a lot of work into this animation. So, kudos to you for that. This is not a web page. Should not be your main page. Where is the frickin'... Okay. Sorry, Orca, but please. Zach Duda. Get in the timeout zone, Zach. Don't spam my chat. Don't spam my chat. Okay, Ion FPV. Let's go to the Orca Facebook. Yeah, let's do that. Alrighty, where's that Orca Facebook? I went there. Watch. Let's see. Orca. Okay. Orca FPV.1. Okay. Last post, December 2nd. Okay, so not exactly up to date. Oh, wait, no. Sorry, that's pinned or something. So here's a comparison of the video. But where's the actual download? Nope. Okay, where's that firmware download? Where is it at? Orca FP1 has glass lenses. Good to know. November 27th. Oh, here's firmware 110. Okay. Okay. Oh, that puts me here, and that puts me here. Oops. No. Doesn't. Oh, you guys couldn't see any of that. Sorry. I wasn't on the right screen. Anyway. So, yes, I'm still using Orca, but no, I'm not on the latest firmware because I was unable to find it. Oops. Hero Psycho says, do you see any issues with RapidFire modules going bad? Mine has been losing lock, seemingly more and more. I don't know about that. I haven't had any problems with losing lock. You would want to make sure you're using the same camera and VTX, so those can affect the ability to hold lock. If you suspect that it's losing lock, definitely, yeah, you recalibrated. That's good. Anytime you update the firmware, you should redo the calibration, although it's technically not supposed to be necessary. If you suspect you have a bad module, then contact Immersion RC via the Immersion RC Hub Facebook group, and they may ask you to send it back and check it out. Is that right? Let's see. Kasiba says to download the firmware, just right-click, save link as. Oh, look at that. Ain't that something? It's still not the latest firmware, but hallelujah. Why is it that when I click, it doesn't... Why is when I just click on the link, it gives me a 404? Okay, thank you for that. That is great news, but you can hardly blame me for clicking download and getting a 404 and thinking it was a problem. Yeah. WTFPV in the Discord wants to know if I still recommend the Foxeer Aero Micro. I would, but I hear the Foxeer Aero Micro is... I made a recommendation and someone told me that it was not being made anymore. It's like going off of... So I got to find new budget cameras. ZFPV wants to know how often I unscrew the SMA connectors on my RapidFire. I have a right angle and a 45 on it to help save me for that. Let's we got a bunch of super chats coming in, and let's go ahead and get some of those super chats out of the way before we get too far into the stream. Yeah, the Razor. Thank you, RC The Razor is the one that Foxeer is putting out instead of the Micro Arrow. It's very similar. So I haven't tested the Razor, but I really like... I mean, if it's $20 and it looks pretty decent, then I would go with the Razor. Okay, Fatty Sis, thanks for $2. Aphex FPV, thanks for 2 quid. 2 quid. 2 quid. Pounds. 2 pounds. Mr. Gauss, thanks for $2. Didn't have anything better to do with this. Thank you, Mr. Gauss, for giving it to me. Snickers FPV, $6 Australian. Try to stay out of the fires, Snickers. If you're in Australia, God help you right now. I hear the whole continent's on fire. Does Australia now win the prize for first continent to be entirely aflame? Because I don't think we've had entire continents be on fire before. Trying to think of what the smallest continent is. Australia. Dude. Snickers. Martin Volker, thanks for a 23456 CZK. Thank you for that donation. License to drive, $2. Gonna make a 3D printed kickstand for the T16. Thank you, license to drive. Alf Ville. We have 10,000 COP, but I don't know what a COP is. So... they are Colombian pesos. Well, I have 10,000 of them now. Thank you, Alfie. I was hoping that 10,000 would be a bigger number, just because, but apparently exchange rate is not very good. Thank you, Outfield. I have a question. I have a Horus X10S and the King Kong GT95 with an XM receiver. In D16 with 16 channel, it works good, but in 8 channel, no signal. That's an interesting one, Alf, because you're in the D16 Horus X10S. The 8 channels shouldn't change the binding mode. Alf, here's what I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that you're changing from D16 to D8. That's a common misconception that D8 is 8-channel mode. It is not. In the Horus, you can change the channel numbers. So bind in D16 mode, but then change the channel number from 1 to 16 to 1 to 8. It's right below where you bind. Don't change to D8. D8 is not... D8 does have 8 channels. That is true. But D8 is different from D16. You want D16 with channels 1 through 8. Daryl Hickman, thanks for $2. What's your top 2 cineWhoops to date? Daryl Hickman, I am rounding up cineWhoops for a cineWhoop shootout. The Holy Bro cineWhoop, the Bumblebee from iFlight, the Diatone cineWhoop, and the Shendrone Squirt as built by Rotorite. I'm going to be doing a shootout of those. It's going to be a few weeks before I get it finished and get it out, but I am working on that. And for now, I don't have a favorite. Metal Dirt Skin FPV says, isn't there a D16 and a D16 8-channel mode? Metal Dirt Skin, if you're using the Jumper 4-in-1 module, yes. So on the X10, you will bind in D16 mode, and below that there will be a place to change the channel number from 1 through 16, and you'll just highlight 16 and click and then lower it to 8. But on the Jumper 4-in-1 module, there are 2 different protocols. One is D16 8-channel, and one is just regular D16. The Mighty Thor is trying to get me to get the newest Orca firmware, but the Mighty Thor, I must not be in the group or something, because when I click on this link, I just get the link you followed may be broken. Sorry. Thank you for $5, Mighty Thor. I appreciate the donation. That must be in a group that I don't have permission to get. Tips for new Crossfire users, asks Mark R. Thank you for $2, Mark R. Tips for new Crossfire users, make sure to set your failsafe in the receiver. It does not default to no pulses or cut, I think is what they call it. When you get a new receiver, make sure you go into the receiver and change the failsafe. That's a good tip. Alan Sanderson, thanks for $5. I suspect you can open his Tyrannus models and copy-paste them into the Jumper, as this won't copy the radio settings. The problem, Alan, is that the problem, Alan, is getting the models off of the Jumper. If you already have a Tyrannus with OpenTX, it's no problem, because OpenTX can always copy and paste back and forth. It's getting the models off the Jumper into OpenTX that's a challenge. Some people told me that if you create a new radio profile and set it to X10, you can actually connect to Jumper TX and read the models. I didn't test that yet, but maybe that would work. The problem is, if you connect to your radio with OpenTX and you do anything wrong, it just hard resets the whole radio. It says bad radio data. So the minute you plug in USB, you're risking losing all your models. But I guess you're going to do that anyway when you update, so you got nothing to lose. Cowabunga, thanks for $5. Christian Maldonado, thanks for $5. I got a Torrent 110 bound to my T16, but I don't see any movement on the receiver tab. So, Christian, getting the movement on the receiver tab is several steps. The first step is binding, which you've succeeded at. The second step is getting your flight controller to see the signal from your receiver. And the way to do that depends on your flight controller and your receiver. You're going to need to make sure you have the correct UART enabled as serial RX in the ports tab, and you're going to need to make sure you got the right protocol selected, and of course you're going to need to wire it up correctly. Christian, if you will message me on Facebook, I will be glad to try and if you just tell me what flight controller and receiver you've got, we can go through it. Oh, it's the Torrent 110. Oh, that's going to be a little tricky because it's a pre-build. Well, anyway. Jose Sotelo, thank you for $5. Ordered an R9mm receiver for R9 module for my Jumper T16. I received an R9mm OTA. Well, give it a try. I don't see why it wouldn't work, Jose. Sounds like you got a bonus. The over-the-air, I've heard some people reporting that the over-the-air flashing is kind of hit or miss, but give it a try. You never know. I mean, will it work? You're the one who's holding it in your hand. Plug it in. Try it out. You tell me if it works. Then I'll tell the next guy. Fat Pastor, thanks for $2. Power Play. Oh, there's a ton of super chats, you guys. We're already at $96. It's amazing for this early in the stream. I feel a little bit guilty that I'm spending so long doing super chats and ignoring the rest of you guys. But now that I've started the super chats, I have to get through them all or I'll forget some of them. Fat Pastor says Power Play only records black and white through HDO2 on Cadex HD. Fat Pastor, I would just reach out to Immersion RC on that one. The Immersion RC Hub Facebook group, they're very responsive to questions like this. And if there is a bug, they'll want to know about it so they can get it fixed. In Maniac 1989, thanks for $5 I'm a beginner FPV pilot and feel like my progress is slow. How many hours of flying is typical to feel in complete control of the quad? Well, in Maniac, I mean, incomplete control is a tough thing to judge. I don't yet feel in complete control. So the bottom line is you're going to progress at your own pace. Everybody will progress differently. I've seen, 14-year-old kids pick it up. Kids pick it up so fast. I've seen them be really good after just 4 or 5 hours of stick time. I've seen other people take 20 or 30 hours and they're still kind of a little hesitant. You're going to be where you are. Stick time is the answer. Practice in the simulator if you can't practice in the real world. But just stick time is the answer. And I would also say challenge yourself. And that's why the simulator comes in handy, because if you challenge yourself in real life and you crash and you break your quad, that's bad. But the simulator, especially as you're a beginner, the simulator will be very beneficial, because if you're an expert trying to do some really complicated trick, you have to do it in real life. But as a beginner, just trying to learn how to coordinate turns and do basic moves, the simulator is perfect. So that's what I would say. Practice in the simulator. Practice with intent. Don't just tool around, but most importantly, get stick time. Fatty Cyst, $2. First was a flood. Next will be a fire. I think you must be talking about Australian. The Mighty Thor got you. Vic FPV. Vic FPV is in my chat. Vic FPV, the only Mode 3 pilot. I shouldn't say only. Vic, thank you for your $20 donation. Belated Merry Christmas. Vic is the most precise. I mean, he gave me $20, so now I have to compliment him, right? Vic is one of the most precise pilots I know. Vic's like, if a lot of pilots, if you ask them to do like a snap 360 roll or a snap 180, the horizon will be like a little bit off, or they'll kind of go whoop, and kind of settle into it. But Vic, that guy's got his rates down. Vic's a hell of a pilot. Zach Duda, thanks for $15. Sorry for spamming. No hard feelings, Zach. Just, I would love to answer your question. You gave me $15 in a super chat to apologize for spamming, but you should have asked your question, Zach. For $15, I would definitely answer your question. Drone Excursion is apologizing for implying that I'm a shill for DJI. Apology accepted. Do4 FPV, thanks for $3. Snaggletooth FPV, thanks for $10. No question, Snaggletooth, just a donation. Thank you, man. Flyer Tuck, thanks for $5. And Alf Wild, another 4,000 pesos. I'm in D16, lower to 8 channel to get lower latency. Yeah, no, I know, Alf. But are you going to D8? Is that how you're getting to 8 channel? Or are you still in D16, but you're just changing the channel number? You can change the channel number after you bind. So if you're having to rebind on an X10, I think you must be changing to D8. Anyway. Oh, okay. That's the super chats. Bernard Fox, thanks for $2. Will there be a JBF7 flight controller? Should I let the cat out of the bag, you guys? Should I? Should I do it? See, I hate to show you guys this because then you're going to be like, you're going to be, wondering when it's coming out and everything. The patrons have already seen it. I got this photo from the manufacturer this morning. Make sure there's no incriminating information here. Okay. This is one of the first prototypes. I haven't even got this yet. Okay. This is one of the first prototypes, though. This is in the works. This is going to happen. Y'all can like screen grab this. Look at the design. So this is JBF 7 coming soon, hopefully. Probably not before Chinese New Year, I'm sorry to say. Probably not. We're gonna try to get it before Chinese New Year, but not if it means that like quality would suffer, because that would suck. So, but why does it still have a boot button, the Mighty Thor? Because sometimes you need bootloader, dude. Sometimes you need bootloader. Through holes would be better, 661 FPV. The problem with through holes is that you can't put stuff on the underside of the board. So here's the underside. Through holes but I explicitly said that the pads must be reinforced for rework. And now, if you're looking at this design, you may be thinking that this is not the most efficient design because some of these pads are duplicated, right? Like, for example, there are 5-volt pads anywhere where you might conveniently want one. There's also, like for the VTX, a 9-volt pad, and a VBAT pad. The idea is that I don't want a beginner to have to be dealing with solder bridges and yada, yada, yada. I just want you to solder the damn wire to the pad that is what you want. So we've got these voltage output rails, ground, 5-volt, 9-volt, and BAT+. And you're like, well, can't you just solder 2 wires here? You can, but I don't want you to have to. So we got it's going to be very neat to wire exactly how you want to, but also give you everything else you might want. The video transmitter is switched. We got pit mode built in. SD card slot, yes. SD card slot, yes. Dual gyro, yes. So it is going to do sensor fusion. That is correct. It's got a 4-in-1 plug on the bottom, but just in case you need it, it's got pads right here to duplicate. These are the pads for the 4-in-1 plug. If your 4-in-1 plug breaks, this here is for DJI Air unit. Where can you get it? Not available yet. It's coming soon. Coming soon. Coming soon. Dominic Clifton, nice to see dual gyro. I did it 2 years ago, though. That is true, Dominic. That is true. Sensor fusion. Clean Flight and Dominic Clifton were the first to do sensor fusion on Betaflight, anyway. Dominic Clifton's SP Racing H7 still has a lot of claims to fame that nobody can match. Like the ability to load firmware off an SD card in the field, so you could switch between ArduPilot, iNav, Betaflight just by loading the firmware off the SD card. The PID audio feature that lets you hear how your PIDs are performing. John McKenna, on my flight controller, the SD card is for black box only. Mighty Thor, some computers don't work to put the software put the board in bootloader mode. So bootloader button is a good fail back. Will it come with conformal, Daryl Hickman? I don't know about that, Daryl. I hadn't put any thought into that, to be honest with you. I mean, the thing is, you have to solder. You're going to have to reconformal it anyway, because you're gonna solder on it. So, Moldy Goldie, it will be at Race Day Quads first. Race Day Quads is the manufacturer. I mean, obviously, we're doing it through an OEM. Race Day Quads isn't literally manufacturing it, but Race Day Quads will be the U.S. importer, if you will. We will continue to use the same ESC, Moldy Goldie, the same JB ESC. VTX and cam regulator, is it going to brown out? Asks FPV Arborist. Hell no. So that has been an issue we have struggled with on the existing JB flight controller. Some of them have the 9-volt regulator is not as strong as it should be. And rather than just give people new boards all the time or tell them to use ESC+, this is going to be a 3 amp rated regulator, which we are going to call it a 2 amp rated regulator. But so we're over-speccing the regulator. Calabrese wants to know, what does sensor fusion do? Calabrese, to really answer that question, you would have to be way smarter about math than I am, but here's the gist of it. If you take 2 gyro chips and you orient one of them 90 degrees to the other, or 45 degrees to the other, iFlight does it 90 degrees. I think Dominic Clifton does it 45 degrees, and I don't know the difference. But you take 2 gyro chips, you orient them differently, and then you average their readings, you get better signal-to-noise ratio. It's like free filtering, really. That's the gist of it. DJI output will be on the 9-volt Beck Cotees. That is correct. So you can run it on 6S. Chris Schlegel, will I review the Meteor 65 19,500 kV? Chris, I reviewed the 2200 kV, and I think the 19.5 is probably a better quad. The 22 it gets 2 minutes, 2 minutes 15 maybe, and you are done. If the 19.5 was able to get you to like 2 minutes 30, or maybe a little more, I think it would be a much better, much more all-rounded quad. So I haven't tested it, but yeah, I think it's 19.5 is probably the way to go. INFPV, thank you. I got your message about the firmware. Any input on the Mobula 6? Asks Ken Hicks. I have a Mobula 6. I will be working on it this week. Flyer Tuck says, JB, do you think converting our budget towards building sub 250 gram quads would be safer in the long term? The thing is, even if remote ID goes into effect today, it'll be 3 years before it's all finalized, so I think you still have time. Stan asks, free filtering. Why not quad gyros or octo gyros then? Well, Stan, that's a place where I don't have the mathematical engineering background to comment, but I don't think you're wrong there, Stan. The thing is, the idea seems to be that, I don't know, I'm not even going to try. I think that by adding more gyros, you would get better signal-to-noise ratio with the right algorithms. So you could use 1 gyro, 2 gyros at 90 degrees, or 3 gyros at 90 and 45, or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Dominic Clifton's still in the chat. Maybe Dominic, is there an advantage to using more than 2 gyros? Dominic says it's not free filtering. You have to read the data. I guess what I mean by that, Dominic, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm always out to learn from people smarter than me, and you're definitely one of them. But my understanding is that the type of filtering we do, post gyro filtering with like the low pass, like the biquad or whatever, PT1, that stuff has a latency penalty. But when you're doing sensor fusion, you get increased signal-to-noise ratio with no latency penalty. There's processing latency, but there isn't the filter latency. Tell me if I'm wrong about that, Dominic. And I'm going to have to watch for his answer in the chat. So, guys, the analogy I like to make about filtering is, let's say we're going to do a moving 10-sample average, okay? Get ready. I'm going to start feeding you data, and you're going to give me a moving 10-sample average. And that's actually a very, very basic low-pass filter. So here comes the data. Sample number 1, sample number 2, sample number 3. Okay, what's the 10-sample average right now? Well, there isn't one. You only have 3 samples. There can't be a 10-sample average if you only have 3 samples. So that algorithm I've just described, by the time you get the 11th sample, you can output the 10-sample average for the first 10 samples. And so that algorithm will always have 10 samples worth of delay. Well, that's how the filters that we use, the PT1, the biquad, all those filters have a certain amount of delay. But sensor fusion gives you increased signal to noise ratio, so it's kind of like extra filtering. It gets rid of noise, but there's very, very little latency. There's that sampling latency isn't there. You can get the 10th sample on. Yeah, but you wouldn't output the 10th sample average until the 11th sample. I guess I'm sorry. You're right. You would know what it was, but if you wouldn't be able to. Anyway, yeah, you got it. You're right. I should mark Dominic as a moderator. There's no other way to... There, Dominic Clifton is now a moderator. There's no other way to get people's names called out except to make them moderators. So there's a whole bunch of people who are mods on my channel who I just so I can see when they comment. No comment about the new ICM 42605? Asks, I am not up on the ICM 42605. What is it? Is that the new... That's the new sensor chip. ICM 4605. Is that the one that's specifically designed for drones? I'm looking at this page about it. I am not using the ICM 42605 on my new flight controller. That's for sure. Raven187 says, like why RPM filtering reduces latency in filters because it's being read directly from the motor. Raven, the reason RPM filtering can reduce latency is because you can use less filtering when you know exactly the frequency that you want to filter. So the more precise the filter, think about it, the narrower the notch, the less latency the notch. But the more likely you are to miss. So let's say that the motor frequency is here and your notch is this narrow. It has to be right on top of the motor frequency. And if it's off by even a little bit, then you don't have any filtering. So when you don't use RPM filtering, you need to use a relatively wide notch because you're kind of just guessing where the motor frequency is. When you use RPM filtering, you can use a narrower notch, and that's why you get less latency. Extinction wants to know in the Discord. Thank you for being a patron, Extinction. I had 2 packs drop a cell, so I shorted a smoke stopper to discharge them to recycle them. Not sure how much farther I need to go before they're safe to dispose of. Is 0.3 volts total pack voltage low enough? Here's the thing, Extinction. If you short a pack all the way down to 0 volts, in my experience, even like maybe like a few days later, if you take the clips off, it'll rebound to like 1 or 2 volts, maybe a little more. But it doesn't really have any oomph in it. If you actually short it again, boom, it's just right back to 0. So it's basically dead. What I do, if I want to be really sure, is after I have shorted it and it's at 0 volts, I solder the leads together. And then it will never be above 0 volts ever again. But if you solder the leads together on a not fully discharged pack, it's going to be dramatic. So don't do that. Let's see here. We got some troubleshooting going on in the Discord. A little more in-depth troubleshooting than I think I would like to do on a live stream, but thank you, patrons. I am constantly humbled by how freaking helpful my patrons are to each other. I got into doing what I do, and I said from the beginning, I am never going to... I said I'm always going to help people for free, because people helped me for free when I got into the hobby, and I wouldn't be where I am without them. And people still help me for free. About Dominic Clifton's in here teaching me about sensor fusion. He's not charging me a dime to do it. So yes, people are thankful for my help and send me money via Patreon and other ways, and I'm able to make a living at this. But I never insist that people pay me in order to get help. But my patrons are doing the same thing, and they're paying to be there. They're paying me so they can sit in a room and help each other solve each other's problems. And sometimes I look at that and go, should I be answering all your questions? But I couldn't answer every single question because I just spend all day answering questions. So. Alrighty. Any thoughts on the current Rotor Riot CL1 build kit, asks Harrison Grant. Let's take a look at that. Oh, wait. That's the flight. Why does the flight test store have a Rotor Riot CL1? That's interesting. That's the frame. Where's the kit? Build kits. That's the built and tuned. Here we go. $200. I mean, here's the thing. Anytime you can get a full quad kit for $200 or less, you're doing all right. I'm a little suspicious of anything that's too inexpensive. The motors you get with this kit are certainly one of the strong points. A lot of budget build kits will give you really, really cheap, crappy motors as a way of, they'll give you a motor that costs $4 to make. They'll count it as $10, $15 worth of value. Any one of these are premium motors. These are $20, $25 motors, so you can have your pick. The Transtech F7 is a fine flight controller. I think it's got an HGLRC. Wait a minute. Has it got the HGLRC flight controller or the Transtech? The Transtech's okay. Oh, I see. The HGLRC. I would get the Transtech over the HGLRC. HGLRC has interesting designs, but their QC, I think, is a little questionable. So I don't usually feel confident recommending HGLRC electronics, because if you get a bad one, it's just going to pop on you for no reason. So the weakest part, I think, of this is the ESC. As you know, like I said, for the reasons I just said. The Runcam Phoenix camera is a very, very good looking camera in the daylight, but as it gets darker, it gets pretty poor, but not a bad choice. Rush FPV VTX is fantastic. Lollipop antennas are fine. They're not great. They're fine. And Hype Train motors are your choice. This is not going to be the kit that everyone's going to pick. Like, some people are not as impressed by these motors and go, oh, I'm going to get different motors. But I think I think this is a decent kit for the right person, though. I kind of wish there was a little bit more reliable ESC in it. I mean, obviously it was terrible, they wouldn't be selling it. But yeah. Yeah, MC's Creation says, I never had a problem with HGLRC stuff. I know. So many people have never had a problem with HGLRC. The problem is that if I recommend it and then 1,000 people buy it and then 100 of them have a problem, then 100 people think I'm a jerk. So I try to have a pretty high standard and recommend products that when I recommend it and 1,000 people buy it, only 20 of them are going to think I'm a jerk. So, Travis Cook, what's a premium Omni antenna? The Luminaire Axie, Vaz Ion for the goggles, but I wouldn't put a Vaz Ion on a quad, both because it's a more directional antenna and because it is, I don't think it's very durable. Those are some. Do I have a link for these drinking glasses? These are just mason jars, quart mason jars. Let's see here. Yeah, pretty fly for a white guy. And the Discord says, just had my HGLRC shit out today for no reason. And the thing is, like, I am not necessarily one to talk. There have been batches of the JB flight controller that had poor QC. It's just, I think what happens is that HGLRC, they were one of the first to make a flight controller with integrated VTX. This is the classic issue with HGLRC. They're the first, if not the first, one of the first to make a flight controller with integrated VTX. Wow. But then it's so hard to actually make that they were just like dying randomly. And so they reach for the sun and then their hand gets burned, is what it feels like. There you go. Siren FPV. That is exactly right, Dominic. I knew someone was going to say it. Siren FPV, and I reviewed that flight controller, and the VTX crapped out on it. So, oops. But yeah. Let's see here. Let me get some super chats. We got a few super chats stacking up. Let me get them out of the way. Sam Caramel, thank you for $5. First quad, 5-inch Skyliner HD. Managed to pull off a power loop through a pavilion. Felt so good. Took it out today. 80-foot tree fall. No brakes, but mud. Well, that's good. That's a good testimonial right there. If you dropped out of a tree from 80 feet. Sam Caramel gave me another $5 and left the exact same comment. Thank you, Kim, for $10. Ricky Church, thanks for $2. Colton, thank you for $5. How well do ESCs hold up to resoldering new motors? They should hold up really well. Like, those pads should just be so thick because of the current they have to carry. So I would say if you're lifting motor pads, you probably got to ask yourself whether your soldering technique is up to snuff. They should be able to handle a lot of, like, don't go bonk. You shouldn't have to go bonkers holding the soldering iron on them for hours at a time. But, so unless you have bad hardware, you should be able to resolder. I can't think of any time I've lifted a motor pad. FPV Addict 1, thanks for $2. Is there going to be something like Quad Camp again? FPV Addict, so Rotor Riot does quads and coffee in Orlando every now and then. I don't want to spill too many beans. There are some talk of a sort of an on-the-road thing again. There is some talk of something similar to Quad Camp, but not exactly like it. But the problem is, at the end of the day, somebody's got to pay for it. And unfortunately, the tickets for Quad Camp were not sufficient to pay for all the travel expenses and etc. in the long run. Some of them were profitable, some were not. And people already, it were challenges. So but maybe something like it at some point. Iceman, thank you for $2. Will my flight controller include Real Pit VTX power switch? Yes. Yes, it will. Randy Crawl, thanks for $10. Zach Duda, thanks for $2. X9D Plus 2019 doesn't support Crossfire out of the box. Help? Zach Duda, I don't know how FreeSky is shipping it, but I do know that OpenTX moved the Crossfire Lewis script into the tools folder, and that's confusing a lot of people into thinking it's gone. So look in the tools folder, but I wouldn't put it past FreeSky to ship the X9D Plus without the Crossfire stuff, at which point you just flash OpenTX from the OpenTX website, download the OpenTX. Like, FreeSky is potentially shipping with a FreeSky specific build of OpenTX where they have changed things around. But if you just flash the official build of OpenTX, then download the SD card contents and you got Crossfire support, you're good to go. Airhead FPV, thanks for $5 Canadian. William Kimball, thanks for $5. Mark Cash, thanks for $10. We have a lot of big donations in this stream. So thank you to everybody who's donating. Ethan Mitchell, would my Beast class carry a 2-pound payload? I reckon, Ethan. I mean, I don't know what the actual thrust is on it, but 2 pounds? How many grams is that? Or kilograms? 900 grams? Yeah, no problem. Sure thing. It'll carry a 2-pound payload. You can carry a small DSLR with a Beast class if you're willing to crash it. License to Drive says the fact that FreeSky are purposely screwing with their TXs to try and stop people using Crossfire is a big reason I bought a T16. I mean, I feel the same way, License to Drive. I don't... Some people are saying, Joshua, you keep making T16 content and you're leaving out those of us who have X9Ds. And I'm like, hang on, guys. For years, I made content about OpenTX using an X9D. But if you had an X10 or a QX7 or any other OpenTX radio, it's all pretty much the same. The OpenTX content is the same no matter what OpenTX radio. The screens look a little different, but you can figure it out. So now I'm making OpenTX content with a T16. I haven't left the FreeSky guys behind. You guys with FreeSky radios are still running OpenTX, and you can still follow along with all my tutorials. I just happen to be doing it on a T16 right now. That's right, Jesse T. Just pretend it's Horus X10 content. Kasiba confirms. Thank you, Kasiba. All new FreeSky radios. Kasiba says, I'm not saying this, but he's saying this, or she, that Crossfire is disabled in FreeSky radios by default. So what you need to do is when you get your FreeSky radio, the very first thing you do is you download OpenTX Companion and flash OpenTX to it and download the OpenTX SD card contents. But I gotta, like, does that not make you feel a little like, right? Like, if you intend to run Crossfire, you gotta ask yourself, do you want to be using a product that actively is trying to stop you from using your own hardware with their, like, okay, you can jump through the hoop and make it work today, but, like, does that feel good? It doesn't to me. Sam Caramel. Oh, I see. Oh, Sam, look at that. Sam, I see that your second comment had a question in it. At the time that I read it, they were both the same. I don't know what's going on, but thank you for pointing that out. Sam Caramel, thanks for $5 in the super chat. The tree crash, though, damaged my rear antenna 3D print. Need another. I mean, you gotta go to somebody like, either you gotta get a 3D printer and print your own, or you gotta go to somebody like Brain 3D and get them to print you another one. That's the bottom line, though. I mean, you crash, things break. It seems I have lower quality footage. If you mean the FPV video, that probably means that maybe your antenna got broken. If you mean the high def video, maybe you damaged a motor bell and you got extra vibrations. Exploring with DP, thanks for £5. 5 quid. So it sounds so weird to say quid. I am Root in the Discord asked, what do you think of the proposed drone tracking law? I think it's a real problem. I ranted about it like all of yesterday's live stream, so I'm trying not to do that today. I'm working on a video. I hope to get together with somebody from the FPV Freedom Coalition to talk about the law, what it means, and what could be done about it. The bottom line is that it's bad. It's bad, and I'm concerned that there's not a lot we can do about it, except make the best of it. So, yeah. Soltus says, does Betaflight support Crossfire Smart Audio, or do I need to use the Crossfire Lua? You can use either if you have your Smart Audio VTX hooked to your Crossfire receiver, you have to use the Crossfire Lua. If you have, or you can use the Crossfire module if you have the full module. If you have the video transmitter connected to the flight controller, you use the Betaflight OSD or Betaflight Lua script. And that's why I prefer to use the flight controller if I can. That's a tough one there. Tony Briz says, I upgraded to OpenTX 234. My GPS coordinates don't display correctly. That's got to be an issue with the widget. I don't know how to fix that, Tony. That's a tough one there, man. I mean, it's just the widget is displaying the telemetry data incorrectly. That could be a bug. You may want to raise that as an issue on the GitHub repo as a bug. Colin Dempsey. Ooh, tough question, Colin. Which do you recommend, DJI FPV with the analog mod or the Orca goggles? So, Colin, it's actually an easy question to answer. I take it back. It's not a tough question. If you only fly analog quads, then Orca, because the OLED screens on the Orca look amazing. Same is true of the HDO2, I feel obligated to say. If you only fly analog quads and you have no interest in DJI, then an Orca or HDO2. If you are holding out for a future where there is a digital ground station like Bitefrost or a digital module that Orca seems to maybe be teasing, then those goggles. The OLED screen it looks better than the DJI screen. The DJI screen is larger, and I think it's higher resolution, although I'm not sure it's higher pixel density. But the DJI screen is I think it's an LED screen, and it just doesn't have the brightness, saturation, and contrast of an OLED screen. However, if you intend to fly high def, then obviously DJI is the one to get, because that's what you're going to be flying. And the analog input on the DJI goggles is good enough, now that they've fixed the latency issue and the DVR issue, to act as your primary analog input. So that's how I would do it. That's how I would like break it down. My FC burns when I plug into Betaflight. Ooh, it's broken. It's broken, man. Oops, just spilling all over myself. Marley Lepo, what PDB do you suggest to use with your F7? Marley, thank you for 20 Norwegian kroner. I would suggest using it with a 4-in-1 ESC. It's designed for use with a 4-in-1. Like, you can use it with a PDB. I couldn't suggest a PDB to you because I've not used a PDB in forever. It's really meant to be used with a 4-in-1 ESC. I would just go to like Get FPV and look for a PDB. It's not like, what do you want from a PDB? It's like, it just doesn't, you don't need a lot. Christian Maldonado, thanks for $10. What can be the right build instead of the CL1 on 6S? I'm looking to build my first one, but there's so much out there that it's actually confusing. You might have the answer. Well, get ready, patrons. My patrons have a game they play in the Discord where when I plug my website, they try to be the first to post a screen grab of me doing it. Here it comes. Christian Maldonado, if you're confused by the overwhelming array of products out there, can I suggest you check out fpvknowitall.com. This is my website. It includes, well, right now it's pretty much exclusively the ultimate FPV shopping list, which has part recommendations. I just got done doing some updates to the frames section yesterday. Added the Xylo Freakstyle as a suggested budget frame. Still trying to think, who should I... So I got these guys as my budget frames, right? Rotorite CL1, TBS Source 1, Xylo Freakstyle, okay? And of course, when I thought, what are some premium frames I should put on the website? Of course, I could not overlook the Impulse RC Reverb. It just stands out. But then I was like, who else? And the thing is, I could just fill the website up with Rotor Riot frames, but then I don't want it to like look like I'm favoring Rotor Riot. So, I'm kind of thinking maybe Kebab's new frame should go on here. I try to pick just like 1 or 2 or 3, not like all of them. What do you guys think? Project 399. Yeah, that is, so I am going to be adding the Project 399 frame. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Hold on. Is that Evan Turner's? No, my bad. Project 399 Super G. All right, see, I'm going to add some of these. Stingy V2. The Stingy V2 is super good. You are not wrong about that. And Stingy's not a Rotor Riot pilot either. The Apex. Let's look at some other good ones. I think Kebab, I feel like Kebab's got to be on there. I have not really done a nod to Kebab in a long time. Mr. Steel Apex, yeah. Impulse RC Reverb. Oh, you know what? Yeah. Apex. Apex is very popular. Project 399. Tax frame. So I have the TAC FPV one in the DJI section. The problem is there's so many good ones that I kind of like, I don't want to. So the Banggood is also, the problem, the Banggood is super heavy. I have the Banggood in the DJI section. Yeah, Kebab Glide. I think Kebab Glide is going to go in. Kebab, I've left him out for too long. Let's see here. Catalyst Banggood. Let's see. So then I've also got to get some racing frames added. I had more racing frames, but they just haven't aged well. One of the ones I want to get is Evan Turner's frame. I want to get that put in. The 533 switchback. That's his frame. That's what it is. Now, this is an interesting frame. It is a vertical arm frame. Wait a minute. Where's it? That's a vertical. That was a vertical arm. Am I thinking of a different frame? Hang on. Let's see the built frame. No. Oh, I'm thinking of a different frame. Never mind then. Okay. I think the Catalyst Machine Works America is still a great frame. I know Catalyst Machine Works, people have moved on to other frames, but it's still my favorite of their racing frames. I'm not a racer though, so what do I know? Let's see. Let me look back here at a few others. Source 2. Yeah, well, if I've got the Source 1, I should probably put the Source 2 in. Right? Flywoo Mr. Croc. Now, is that a good frame? Because I've heard mixed things about some of the Mr. Crocs breaking way too easily. Now, the problem is Mr. Croc would be another sort of $45 budget freestyle frame, and I kind of have got a bunch of those already, so I don't want to just cram in more. Zojak Onith says, how much more durable are $80 frames compared to lower priced ones? Not that much different. Some of them are better designed and more durable. It's tough. I think it's tough to make an argument of what you get with like an $80 frame. Usually the more expensive frames are, sometimes they use more carbon or they waste more carbon because of the way they're designed. Sometimes it's just that they're made in smaller batches, so there's less of a margin. I think that's a tough one. Don't waste your money on $100 frames, says Quad Squad FPV. Like, if you look at a frame and you love it, like I'm a fan of Drib's frame. I'm a fan of, let's pull up Drib's frame. I'm a fan of Drib's Skyliner frame. I think it's a really clever, where's the Skyliner V2? Hang on. No. There. Well, look at that. Where's the Skyliner? This is the HD is based on the V2. We'll look at the HD. So the one thing about Drib's frame that I don't necessarily like is the wide arms. The wide arms just really, that's a very dated design aesthetic. And I don't even think he uses arms on the ESC. I think he just wants them to be strong. But that stands out to me. But I really like the front end design. The way that you get adjustable up tilt angle. And it's a pretty strong front end. So if you look at that and you go, that's what I want that. Well, then you're going to pay $90 for it because that's what he's asking. But you definitely don't have to pay $90 or $100 to get a good frame. Definitely not. Wrong Way FPV, best motor for a 3-inch racer. I feel like Aaron Ciotti was talking about a 1606 high kV motor for 3-inch being good, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Kasiba says, what about a real racing frame in box design like the Singularitum? What is the Singularitum? Let's look at that. Apparently I have looked at it before because this link is purple. Oh, yeah. I do not like this style of frame. And I'm sorry if you're the designer of this frame and it's the best frame in the world. To me, these joints look like a ridiculous weak spot. Because there's and the need to take out all these screws to get to change an arm or something, I'm just not feeling it. I could, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. The remix needs to be on my list. Remix is awfully hard. Now that's Oh My God's a remix. Here's the thing about the remix, and then you tell me in the chat. The remix is a great frame, but it is so fiddly to build. And I just am not sure how many people like that the Remix is their go-to frame. I try to pick products that are going to appeal broadly to a lot of people. And the Remix has people who love it for obvious reasons, but it's such a fiddly frame. This is the Remix V1. It's such a fiddly frame. I'm not sure how widely appealing it might be. Nathan Prince wants me to explain what a UART is. Nathan, a UART is, think of it like a USB port. It's just a serial I/O. So you connect peripherals to your flight controller like you plug your mouse and your keyboard into your USB ports on your computer. That's what a UART is. Scotian FPV says the Remix is over-engineered. I can't tell. I see why you would say that. I see why some people would say the Remix is over-engineered. And I see why other people would feel that it is the right level of complexity for their personality. Like, just the sheer number of screws and the little washers that make it flush mount, and like just the number of parts that fall out of the bag when you go to build a Remix just makes my head hurt. That's just who I am as a person. It doesn't reflect on Tommy or the Remix, which is a great frame. Just makes my head hurt. What UARTs should be visible after a firmware update? Gavin Brooks, if you updated firmware and all your UARTs disappeared, you flashed the wrong firmware. That's what I would say. MBFPV in the Discord says, I have a 5 and 6 inch Remix. I love them. It's super easy to get into the stack by opening the bottom hatch. Yep, you're right. You're right. It is super easy to get in by opening the bottom hatch. That is true. The other thing about the Remix that bugs me is that the battery is in line with the props, which I've never been very comfortable with. Yeah. Nathan Prince still wants me to explain UARTs. Nathan's a little behind the times. Bluefire FPV says, my brushless cineWhoop motor direction alternates from counterclockwise to clockwise from time to time. How do I fix it? I think that probably means if your motor doesn't start up spinning the same direction every time, your ESC is probably bad. Dominic Clifton wants to know best field non-goggle module frequency scanner. You mean like an actual well, I'm going to have to find the name of the thing that I'm looking for. Dominic. There it is. Dominic, I think the go-to there has to be the RF Explorer. So this is the one I actually owned one of these for a little bit, but it didn't quite do what I needed it to do. The RF Explorer, I've seen people use this at races and stuff. And you can get into it for about $200. It depends on which exact modules you get. But anything else is going to be way more expensive. So if you don't want a goggle module, then this is probably the next price point you would be at. There is MBFPV says, I like supporting Tommy. That's a good point. Can we all agree that Tommy is just awesome? Like, I don't want to sound like I'm pandering, but there are very few people in this hobby who almost no one has anything bad to say about, and Tommy's one of them. Tommy is just a good guy. He has a hell of a design aesthetic. He has a real design sense. Everything he makes from his his hats, his logo, just looks awesome. The frame is bling as hell. And I just want to support him and own his awesome looking gear. That's definitely a good reason to do it. Let's see here. The RC Addict says, check the 5533 Instagram. They show the new optional. Okay. So the 5533 Evan Turner's frame does have optional vertical arms. I wasn't crazy. It's on Instagram. Fred Mulligan says there's another Mavic Mini video in the editing queue. Yes, Fred Mulligan, I have my serious review of the Mavic Mini, but then I also have the fun, wacky hijinks that went down when Ken Heron came over. So that is currently being edited, might come out this week. And then there's going to be more Mavic Mini content, you know, just going forward. But of course, my core is got to be like Betaflight and stuff. Stephen Rossi, friendly reminder that if you list the Glide, link to FPV Cycle, his site, and not Pyrodrone. FPV Cycle is the only place to get the Glide Light and Hammer variants. Is there some, like, something going on between Rugi and Pyrodrone? I thought they were, like, kissing cousins. Hero Psycho, thanks for $5. I recommend the MQC Fusion V2. Hero Psycho, specifically because you constantly recommend the MQC Fusion, specifically because of that, I almost added it to the website, almost exclusively based on your recommendations. And yet, here's what happened. I looked at it and I went, I don't, is it me or is it a little bit of a dated design? Now, okay. Now you may say, oh yeah, Joshua, you're not going to put dated designs on your webpage? Look at this. What kind of, this isn't a design. It's just like two pieces of carbon and some arms, and the arms are thick, and it looks like something out of 5 years ago. Okay, but this is like $100. I looked at it and I went, I just don't know how, when I'm picking frames that are going to cost $100 to put on my, because I want something at every price point, right? But I just couldn't bring myself to say that this is the $100 frame you should be getting. Okay, this one's $200. Okay, that's more. Like when you look at something like the Apex, it's got this lightweight design, it's got thin arms, it's got all these angles, it looks awesome, it's got the 3D printed, yada, 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 yada. And then I look at this and I go, really? I'm going to pay $100 for this? Like, why would you, let me ask you this, chat. I don't want to sound like I'm dogging on the MQC Fusion, because somebody from MQC is going to be like, oh, Joshua Bardwell hates us. Not at all. Not at all. But, like, should you just buy a Source 1 for, like, $45? Is this a better frame than a Source 1? Oh, yeah, Mr. Steel. Now, technically, you're not paying $200 for the Mr. Steel frame. You're paying for the kit. You're paying for the plastics and the fitted race wire. But basically, yeah, you're paying $200 for a frame. Mr. Steel demands a premium. It's a good-looking frame. Don't get me wrong. And people are freaking buying it, too. I don't understand. $200 for a freaking carbon fiber frame, but there you go. The frame alone is $100. Is that true? Apex frame. Let's just double check. Apex frame. Okay. The frame alone is $100. Okay, that's more like it. Okay. Anyway, go back to the MQC Fusion. Am I wrong about the MQC Fusion? Yeah, Hero Psycho, a lot of frames are durable, though. I mean, I know you love it. I just didn't see it. I didn't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Julian S. wants to know what I think of Astro X frames. Well, I'll tell you. Let's find out what does Astro X make. Oh, these are okay. Yeah, I've seen these. SL5. Uh-huh. These remind me a lot of Bob Ruge's frames, though, don't they? Doesn't that? That's the boomerang arm. So, you know, should you buy a Glide instead? Maybe. Hero Psycho says the MQC Fusion, it's the durability and how easy it is to build and maintain. Astro X5 Johnny FPV. Yep, that is a good looking frame. I'll tell you what, the Astro X5, Johnny, this is a good flying frame, but when I look at the design, I think it would be annoying to live with on a day-to-day basis. It's so narrow. It's like, it doesn't feel to me like this is designed to crash well. It feels like it's designed to crash and then you pull another one out of your bag and you just fly it instead. I don't know. Wow. Stephen Rossi. Kebab has already stated that he doesn't make money from Pyrodrone anymore. I'm not sure how they're selling frames that he designed if he isn't getting a cut. That doesn't seem right. Anyway. What about the new BQE Bach Grinder frame? That's definitely going to be a budget frame. And one of the things about my website is that I try to pick 2 or 3 great products at each sort of price point. And that means that there's always going to be other great products that get left off. It doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that I don't want someone to be overwhelmed with decision fatigue. So the BQE Bot 5. Pardon me. Got a little burp there. $80. I don't know, man. Okay, you got the flush mount screws. Those look nice. I'm just like, I'm sorry. Like, where's the frames? Quadcopter frames. Like the Source 1 is really freaking throwing off the curve for the rest of the class. I guess it's heavier. Like, when you can get a Source 1 for $25. Okay, maybe that's not, but what are you getting for $80? Now it sounds like I'm picking on Bot Grinder. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm really not. This just happens to be the frame we're looking at right now. Let's pick a different one. Okay, like if you look at the Johnny frame, it's like ultra lightweight and ultra trim, and it kind of looks awesome. It's got all these rounded edges. You go, okay, well, maybe I want to pay $80 for that. But so many frames out there, I'm going to stop picking on individual frames. When you can get like a Source 1 for $25, or I've got the other one that stands out. Like I just built one of these, a Xylo Freak Style. It's a pretty solid frame. It's like $45. Where is it? There, $40. This is the Xylo Freak Style. Okay. Is it a remarkable frame? Is it like, jaw dropping? I do like these little bumpers on the front. That's pretty clever. That's nice. But like, it's just a frame. Okay, fine. It's $45. So what are you getting when you pay 80, 90, $100? You gotta. The answer is out there, but you gotta ask the question, I think. Okay, Shubritsa, what if the motor startup sounds are not synced? Probably it doesn't mean anything. You can probably ignore it, especially with bidirectional D-shot. The initialization process is sometimes a little delayed. If they are way, way out of sync, maybe you have a problem with corruption of your motor signals, and you should try dropping from like D-shot 1200 down to 600 down to like 300. Yeah. Oh, that's the old Bot Grinder frame. I don't know, man. Anyway. Good. Then when I said negative things about it, it won't sound like I was picking on his new frame. I don't want him to do that. How have I not designed my own frame yet? Well, Stephen Rossi, because the exact same things I'm saying about other people's frames, I think about when I think about, whoa, should I design my frame? What am I going to do? Well, there's a top plate and a bottom plate, and there's some arms, and the arms screw in, and, oh, I designed a frame! Yay! Now I'm going to charge you $80 for it, and I'll make a lot of money. It's like, there's so many great frames out there from amazing designers that I don't see what I really have to bring to the table. Like, look at the Remix. Look at the Apex. Even look at the freaking Freakstyle, which is not a premium frame. But it does have some like, cool little design tweaks, right? And I go, well, I'm just going to buy somebody else's frame. Anyway. Brian Rape, how do you grow the balls to fly over houses and cars and places where you could potentially lose your quad? I mean, you start by being able to trust your equipment, right? That's how you start. You know your limits and you trust your equipment. And then if you do lose your quad, you're screwed. Steve Maslick wants to know, what are the options for running 5S and 6S with the DJI Air unit? You have to have a regulator, Steve. That's the bottom line. You're going to want the regulator for the air unit to be like the absolute minimum is 10 watts, but you want 15 or 20 watts just to be safe. Steve continues to ask, are there any flight controllers that go 5 or 6S and have a plug for DJI? Yep, absolutely. So Steve, if you'll check out, I swear I'm going to stop doing this. If you'll check out the Ultimate FPV shopping list, I have a page about DJI high definition digital system, including flight controllers designed specifically for DJI, and all of them take up to 6S and have regulated output. So you're good to go there. T-Motor flight controller is another one. That's a good one. Is Vanny here? Oh, Vanover's here. Where's Vanover? Is Vanover not a moderator? Oh, there he is. Vanover, I'm going to make him a moderator so I'll see his messages. Wait, Captain Vanover. Is that? I got the wrong chat message. Vanover's a mod now. Vanover's the champ here. The champ. Vanover is the wiener. You know, Vanover started out in the DRL and he said he was going to kick everybody's butt. And I think he had to work harder than he expected. But at the same time, he did win. So, there you go. DRL was really hard, but glad to pull out the win. It wasn't as easy as I thought. Now, the question is that true, or is that just what he's saying to sound humble? How will DRL be affected by the new regulations? Budget FPV, DRL will not be affected by the new regulations because they fly indoors. They fly indoors, and the FAA has no authority. The FAA regulates the national airspace. If you are under a roof, you are not in the national airspace. So, there you go. Is DJI worth buying? I mean, it's pretty awesome. Do you want to buy it? There's no question that it's awesome. I don't think anybody... It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Flight characteristic difference between stretch decks and squish decks frames. License to Drive, I think the biggest difference between stretch decks and squish decks is that stretch decks you're going to see the props in camera and squish decks you won't. There are going to be some differences depending on the weight distribution between the pitch and the roll axis, but the thing is you can pretty much always overcome those with PID tuning and rates. So really, I don't think there's as big of a difference as there might once have been. PID controllers are very good now. Motors are and ESCs are very good now. I think the biggest difference, the biggest reason to choose stretched versus squish decks is that squish decks I would pick for freestyle because you don't see the props. Dominic Clifton, I'm going to disagree with you there. Dominic says StretchX users should fix their mixer settings. Maybe he's just joking. I think there's a possibility he's being sarcastic. It used to be that we thought that you always had to change your mixer settings if you didn't have a square quad. It is true. It is true that the distance of the motor from the CG affects how much authority the quad has on that axis, but my opinion is that if you have rectangular motor layout, then don't waste time changing the mixer. You may need higher P gains or higher rates on a given axis, and changing the mixer might fix that, but who cares? Who cares? Changing the mixer is a pain in the ass. So just tune your StretchX to have higher P gain or whatever, or lower or I gain or whatever you need. But no. I strongly believe that you should not waste time if you have a rectangular motor layout. If you have a dead cat, then yes, maybe a custom mixer. If you have a V-tail or an A-tail, yes, you absolutely. If you have a hexacopter or a pentacopter, yes, you absolutely need a custom mixer for those. But for any rectangular layout quad, I don't think you should waste time calculating a custom mixer. Just adjust your PIDs and your rates so you get the response that you want. I mean, to me, Dominic asks if it was not a pain in the ass, would you care more? To me, what matters is the flight characteristics. So let's say that because the stretch deck is longer, its mass is further from the CG on the pitch axis, and that means that it effectively has a lower pitch rate. For the same commanded degrees per second, it will take longer to accelerate, and therefore you'll get a slower roll. Well, raise your P gain, raise your feed forward on the pitch axis, and you'll fix that. But don't go do freaking trigonometry to fix your mixer. All the mixer is doing, if you have a rectangular frame, a rectangular motor layout, is basically adding a linear multiplier to the PIDs, I think. So just fix it in the PIDs. And that is, I think, because here's the thing. It's not just the distance that matters, but the weight distribution. That's actually what really matters, in my opinion. I'm going to argue with Dominic Clifton about how a mixer should work, but okay, let's do it. Dominic Clifton's written more mixer code than I have eaten pancakes this morning. But I think it's more about the weight distribution than the actual distance. So if you really want to get the mixer right, what you have to do is weigh the quad and determine where the weight is, and just screw it. Just frickin' tune the PIDs. That's what I say. Okay. How about a 5-inch full iNav build series, asks Fat Pastor. Thank you for $2, Fat Pastor. I would love to do an iNav build. I just never seem to get around to it. Big Mouth 1, thank you for $5. Check out the Rebel Mini Quads Yeti. All right, well, for a $5 super chat, I will put up the Rebel Mini Quads Yeti on stream. Let's see what the Rebel Mini Quads Yeti. Oh, Rebel, yeah. Rebel, interesting. Rebel, I'll say this about Rebel. They make incredible merch. The Yeti Long Range. They got some good-looking stuff, I'll tell you that. That is some good-looking carbon. Wow. What the hell is going on with this frame? Okay, you have my attention. What is going on here? That is interesting. Interesting antenna placement, but why? I'm sure there's a good reason. The worst part is no one knows anything about the technology of remote ID. Well, remote ID doesn't exist yet. So there's no technology. Vanover versus Heads Up next DRL season, says Tony Briz. Yep, that's going to be really interesting. Dominic Clifton, why doesn't anybody fly V-tails more? That's what I want to know. I flew a V-tail back when I had a 9-inch quad and I had no yaw authority. And so I flew V-tail to get more yaw authority. On 5 inches, you have plenty of yaw authority. And I think the additional The mixed roll and yaw is just not worth it. That's what I would say. Mobula 7 or Tiny Hawk 2 for my first quad? Asks Luke's. Luke's, I've been working on my review of the Tiny Hawk 2, and I have to say, I feel like the Tiny Hawk 2 really underperforms on 1S. On 2S, it's actually pretty good, but on 1S, it just doesn't seem to deliver. Whereas the Mobula 7 is a little more versatile. Mobula 7 is okay on 1S and good on 2S. So I feel like I'd take the Mobula 7, even though the camera on the Mobula 7 is kind of crap. What about the weight distribution for a staggered deck thing like the Smooth Operator? I don't know about that. Steezy says, have you built or flown or examined Zoe's unicorn frame? I love it. It's light and tough. I think there is definitely a place for a lightweight freestyle frame. Zoe's unicorn. No, that is not the unicorn that I'm looking for. Here's Zoe's unicorn frame. This is a really clever design. Can we see the whole thing? No? Can I not see the whole thing? Okay. That's too bad. Oh, there we go. We got something. I'd love to get a better look at it. Okay. Should have one clean shot of the whole quad, huh? Maybe? Maybe? No? Okay. Yeah, so this is a pretty clever design. It's got a vertical side plate design similar to the quads from Cerberus, frickin' Josh Ingram. You know, who am I thinking of? It's got freaking unicorn horns. This terrifies me. I'm not sure I could ever bring myself to fly this quad. I mean, granted, you smash a quad into anybody, you're going to hurt him, but like literally they're just pointy horns on the front. Okay, Zoe. Zoe's you got to really be a badass to fly this, and she definitely is. Yeah, Thomas Bird Jr., I agree. When I first saw it, I was like, that's pretty skinny. I'm a little concerned about that. Zoe says she hasn't broken any arms, but everybody says that before they sell 2,000 frames, and then people are like, nope, you're breaking arms. So I don't know about that. They're pretty skinny. What budget? Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm going to skip that one. What budget backpack do you recommend? The budget backpacks, I mean, you have to ask yourself, what is a budget? What budget are you at? I'm not sure I could strongly recommend a backpack in this $60 or $70 price range. Frequency Garden. If you type in all caps, will I answer your questions? I saw that question. Thomas Bird says, have you checked out the Method X motors? Has a tank for oil. No, I have not checked that out. That's weird. Method X motors from who? KO Technologies. Demon Seed. Oh, that's the Demon Seed motor. I have checked that out. Okay, what? I don't know what. The Demon Seed motor, the first thing I think when I see this is I'm concerned that this rim here is so sharp that it's going to get dinged and go out of balance really easily. Has an oil tank. I didn't know that. Where does it say that? Doesn't say that. Are you sure about that? Is the Diatone R349 a good starter? Steve Stowe, I think the Diatone 349 is pretty solid. If you're leaning that way, I wouldn't steer you away from it. Matzi, the small Torval is a great backpack. I agree. I'm a big fan of the Torval Pitstop Pro. The smaller Torval is more inexpensive, and but some people will still consider that to be too expensive. Now Frequency Garden is getting auto-modded because he's typing too fast. Betaflight Hive backpack, we're on sale for $75. Betaflight Hive backpack is a steal at $75 if you can get one. How can I get a DX8 and a Pitstop Pro? JH Pilot. I asked Torvald this exact question when I first got the Pitstop Pro. The answer is to take the top shelf, turn it vertical, and slide the DX8 down in the back. That's how. I'm not a huge fan of that. That's actually, Lexi does that as well with her Tyrannus, or whatever it is she flies. It's not a Spectrum, though. And she feels like she gets more space that way, although I tried it, and I don't buy it. Cugs, any idea why the values from Betaflight in my OSD read 0? Your MSP connection is not working right. That's the white and gray wires. They need to be connected to a UART on your flight controller, and then in the ports tab, you need to enable MSP for that UART. Steve Maslick is asking about the Smooth motors from Newbie Drone. These things are cool because they have a, look at this. Look at the magnets. Where are the magnets? There are no magnets. It's just one big magnet with poles like built in. So there are magnetic poles, but it's just one piece of whatever. So it's supposed to be extra well balanced and extra smooth. And I wonder if it's actually going to be stronger, because I wonder if the magnet's going to like reinforce the bell. I have some of these. I'm going to be putting them on a quad and trying them out. Popular Mechanics Newbie Drone is making HDO2 specific foam, their Newbie Drone Max Comfort foam. They are going to be doing it. Just unclear when. They said it might take a little time to get made. Mutt D, new to FPV, money is not an issue. Where should I start to learn how to build? Mutt D, I have a Learn to Build series. It's a little bit dated, but I still would steer you towards it. The instructions are solid. I made this with the goal of just taking you from zero to beginning to flight. This is my Learn to Build series. However, if money's no object, you probably are thinking about getting DJI, in which case you might follow my DJI build. It's not quite as in-depth, but maybe you want to watch the Learn to Build series but not follow along, and then follow along with the DJI series. The Multi-Star Elite, the Turnigy Multi-Star Elite backpack is being mentioned in my Discord as a good budget backpack. Let's take a look at that. No, that's a motor. That's not a backpack. That's a motor. What, ATUC? No. Is that a backpack? I know Multi-Star is a motor. I just... is it a backpack? Yeah, there we go. So this one's $47. Can we see the inside? Can we see the inside, though? Can we not see the inside? Seems like we might like to see the inside. No? Just the outside. Okay, well, that's a little disappointing. Euroev backpack is cheap, but it works. Yeah, so these backpacks will get the job done. They're not going to have the same sort of structure as the more expensive ones. And you're going to put a lot of crap in here. Can we see the inside? Oh, yeah, you win. Okay, this one's the winner because they had a picture of the inside. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice layout. It'll get the job done. At $35, you can't go too far wrong. see here. Can I review the Fusion F7 dual gyro and if there's an advantage? Asks Pyro Assist. Thank you for $5 Canadian. I'm going to have to refer you to Mark Spatz, that is UAV Tech. He did a really great review of the iFlight Success F7 Twin-G, where he talked about the sensor fusion techs. So I'm going to have to refer you to his video, which is really excellent. I'll paste that in the chat for you. He is really, really knowledgeable about filtering and gyros and such. And I think he has smarter things to say than me about this. So here's what I'll say about sensor fusion. And if Dominic Clifton is still in the chat, he'll weigh in. The sensor fusion is a proven tech that exists in domains other than FPV. There's no question that sensor fusion is a thing that can help. The only question is whether the code that we're using is implementing it in a meaningful way and a helpful way. And it's not really clear. The biggest problem with sensor fusion that I've heard of is that if one of the gyros goes bad, now you're taking an average of good data and bad data, and you're actually getting a net loss compared to if you were just using one of the gyros. So some people have suggested that sensor fusion flight controllers, like the gyros should calibrate from the factory or something, so the flight controller could tell if the gyro had gone bad or something. Electric Vulture, to get into my Discord, you have to be a patron. You can join my Patreon using the link in the video description below for as little as $2 a month or more if you feel like I've earned it. I have no idea who's flying the 6-foot drones in Colorado and Nebraska. I don't know anything about that. Splay Mike, the Rush tank is a really good VTX and the 20x20 form factor. Good, decent price, great quality for the cineWhoop. Ken Overby, thanks for $2 in the super chat. Simawalo asks in the Discord, for those of you who have adopted 6S, have you found you need to pay extra attention to handling video noise? I'm finding I need to pay more attention compared to 4S for handling video noise due to the increased voltage. Yeah, this is one of the reasons that I have not jumped hard on the 6S bandwagon. 6S makes PID tuning just a little tougher. I think you get a little bit more probability of like mid-throttle oscillation or having to watch your D-term or your filters. 6S is definitely more likely to pop ESCs. Think about it. If you have a 6S rated ESC and you're running 6S, you have less headroom than if you have a 4S rated ESC. And 6S is more likely to make problems like video noise. So the performance advantages of 6S, they are real and they do exist, but they come with disadvantages and trade-offs. Yeah, Dominic, I've wondered if it might make sense to have the flight controller, like the first time it powers up, take a noise reading from the gyro. Like, I don't know how you could do this meaningfully, but then have the flight controller like store the gyro noise level over time, and it could detect or guess if it thought a gyro was failing over time. Because the gyro, you guys may not know this, but as we crash the quadcopter, the gyro chip degrades. It can degrade or take damage. And when you have a single gyro, it's obvious when the gyro becomes damaged because the quad starts twitching or maybe jerking violently. But when you have two gyros in a sensor fusion setup, it may not be obvious that because the bad data is being averaged out by the good data, and your quad is flying worse, but it's not so bad that like you could tell. So I really think there has to be some software way of figuring out that one of the gyros is just whacked out if you're going to do sensor fusion. But that's one for the smart guys, the developers, not for me. cineWhoop or Mavic? Asks F. Printf. They are two different tools for two different jobs. So cineWhoop is ducted. You can fly in areas where a Mavic cannot, but a cineWhoop is always going to pitch forward or pitch back as it speeds up and slows down. It doesn't have a gimbal. So a Mavic, because it has a gimbal, can get these ultra smooth shots, and the shot is always level regardless of how the quad is moving. So Mavic and a cineWhoop are both very valuable tools in somebody's toolkit. I would say if you had to pick one, probably I would take the Mavic, because a Mavic with the right pilot, a Mavic can fly through an indoor environment and get those tight shot. Maybe not quite as tight, but a cineWhoop can never go up to 500 feet and take like this wide establishing gimbal shot. cineWhoop flight time, no, nowhere near the Mavic. I feel like the Mavic can do more things that a cineWhoop can do, but a cineWhoop can't do most of the things that a Mavic can do. So if you had to pick one, I would pick the Mavic Mini. Claws Z is asking about capacitors. Does it matter where you place the capacitor? The capacitor works best the closer it is to the noise source. So the best case is to put the capacitor directly on the ESC, but this is often not possible. Any capacitor will have some positive effect. The worst place to put a capacitor is like right at the end of the right up with the XT60, because it's the whole battery lead is there between it and the noise. Nevertheless, it does have a positive effect. It's not as good, but sometimes that's the only place you can put one. Casbridge's a Mavic could have FPV added to it, but it's not going to fly like a cineWhoop. A cineWhoop can get a certain type of shot that would be difficult to get with a Mavic. Especially because a cineWhoop, if you crash into a wall by accident, it just bounces off. But a Mavic, if you crash into a wall, well, a Mavic, you can put prop guards on a Mavic. That's not true. All right. What's coming up on 10 p.m.? I haven't seen Ciati in the chat, so I wonder if Ciati is streaming tonight. But we're going to go for another 5 minutes, and then that's going to be the end of the stream for tonight. Any suggestions for learning camera tuning? That's interesting, John Solo. John, I mean, I learned how to adjust cameras because I have a background in photography, and adjusting for shadow detail and highlight detail is just something that you do. I would say adjust the brightness so you can see detail in the darkest shadows. I don't worry too much about blowing out highlights, because blowing out highlights means you can't see the clouds in the sky, but who cares? I'm not going to crash into them. So I try and raise the brightness of my cameras a little bit. You can also adjust the settings in the goggle as well. Sometimes you don't need to tweak the camera, you just tweak the goggles. That's true, Claus Z. This is the last stream of the decade. So, going to be 2020 the next time I stream. Yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. Last stream of 2019. Happy New Year. Larva X or build my own, asks Alejandro Perez. Alejandro, I was not super impressed with the durability of the Larva X. If you're going to get a micro ready to fly, I would pick something else. Yeah. I was a big fan of the HX115, for example. The Eagle sensor will overload if you have the gain too high. Big Data Pimp. I'm sorry to tell. I don't know if this is... I'm spilling the beans again. I'm sorry to say that the Micro Eagle is not going to go away. I don't know how long it's going to be, but if you love Micro Eagles, buy them up. The Micro Eagle, including the JB Micro Eagle, my favorite camera, the sensor used in the Micro Eagle is a special sensor that they have to buy like a quantity of, like 40,000. And it just doesn't seem like they would sell that many if they bought them. So other cameras that are in the lineup are shared. The sensor is shared between the camera, for example, but the Micro Eagle has a sensor that only the Micro Eagle uses. So if you love the Micro Eagle, buy all of them that you want, because it is going to go away eventually. All right. All right, guys. Let's see. I'm caught up on my super chats. Am I going to make another cam? Simon Saucy, I don't know about that. Maybe I will pick another cam as my personal favorite. A camera is something like, the reason I made the Micro Eagle, the JB Micro Eagle, is because I had tweaked settings that I used, and I wanted to share those settings with you guys. So, Cement Kid, I don't like the ergonomics on the Tango. I don't like that wide. I don't see the point of having the screen down there. And it doesn't run OpenTX. I love to run OpenTX. Frequency Garden still trying to get his question answered. I'm trying to look for your question, dude, but I'm not finding it. Oh, well. You can always message me, dude. Yeah. So, that is going to bring us to the end of the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I will see you next decade. Look for more content coming up this week on the channel. What's coming up this week? I hope to record my Ender 3 review. I tell you what, I am so stressed about reviewing 3D printers because there are so many people doing great reviews of 3D printers, and I'm such a noob. I want to be able to give valuable content to the people who are following after me, but at the same time, I don't want to look like an idiot. So I'm kind of stressing about that, and that's why I'm putting it off. But I'm going to try and get it this week. Mobula 6, I'm going to be working on this week. BLHS, RPM filtering, so I'm recording that. I actually was working on that today. So those are some of the things I'm working on for this week. And, oh, and a video about remote ID. Hopefully you're going to get that. So looking forward to getting those out for you. Thank you, everybody, for coming out on the stream. I will be back. Wait, what's next Sunday? Next Sunday isn't New Year's. Next Sunday isn't a holiday. So, yeah, next time I'll be streaming will probably be the 5th, Sunday the 5th, and look for all the awesome content on my channel in the meantime. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Happy flying, everybody. That is going to do it for tonight.